So, you think Kashtira is dead? Well, guess what? No, it is not. In fact, this deck is still one of the best decks that you can be playing. Obviously, I don't think the pure Kashtira deck is any good anymore, but playing it with other engines like Runick, which is what I have here right before you, is actually very, very good. Now, you're probably like, don't you need the battle phase to even do anything with Kashtiras? You don't really need the battle phase, alright? You can win with this deck without using the battle phase whatsoever. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how? Well, the whole gimmick of this deck and the reason why it's so good is because you're just trying to simply deck your opponent out. You keep gaining resources and you just keep taking away all your opponent's resources. It's as simple as that, and it's very easy, and it's just like almost unstoppable when you're playing this deck. I playtest this last format when basically Kashtira was at full power. You know, you had Perlia at full power. You know, you just had all these crazy decks. We already know. We just left the format, right? I mean, new ban list comes out, blah, blah, blah. But I played this deck and I went X1 at a win-a-box tournament a few months back. You can watch that video. I think the only thing that's different that I've changed was one card in the main deck and I think a few cards in the extra deck, obviously. But it's a very simple deck. It's easy to learn. It's not hard at all to figure out the combo lines and stuff like that. But there is some weird hands that you will see, and I think this is why a lot of people turn away from playing the Runick Kashtira decks, because they don't really understand how to play with these weird hands. But I'm going to show you, obviously you're seeing it right now, but I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So you got your 3 Fenrirs, your 2 Unicorns, your 3 Rise Hearts, and you need to play 3 in this deck. All right, playing 2 or 1 just doesn't cut it. You need to be playing Tier Limits Kashtira. This is probably the most important one next to Rise Heart. These two go hand in hand. And the reason is because basically if you are doing the entire combo, like if you open up like one of the best hands that you can possibly open up is like Runick Tip, a way of getting, I'll say like Runick Tip, maybe Terraforming or Fountain, basically a Kashtira name such as Unicorn, and probably like another 2 cards like Slumber and Runick spell card. It doesn't really matter. Basically you can get anywhere between like 9 to like 15 cards milled off your opponent's deck in turn 1. So simply, this card is really needed in your turn 1 and your next turns and stuff like that to continuously keep milling cards off your opponent's deck. And also you can use it to benefit you by milling your cards off your deck if you want to see cards for your Runick Fountain. So you got your 3 planets, your 3 births, your 3 Theosis, which is very important to remember to not do your Theosis nor your Rise Heart's effect to special summon itself, or sorry, to special summon itself before doing your Runick cards to special summon out the Hugin, because you can screw yourself with that. You got the 1 Terraforming, you got your 2 Fountains, your 3 Tips, your 3 Destructions, your 3 Flashing Fires, your 3 Freezing Curses, your 3 Slumbers, your 3 Dispellings, and the 1 Runick Smiting Storm. Now, in my other build, the one that I took to locals and got 2nd place at the Win-a-Box, I was playing the Golden Droplet instead of the Runick Smiting Storm. And the reason is because with that build, I was kind of consistently somehow getting around like 15 cards off my opponent's deck in turn 1, playing that card because I would do Runick Golden Droplet, let them draw a card, banish 4, and then I would have this as well to mill another 2 from the top of their deck and get rid of the card from their hand. So but I noticed with that build that there was a problem where I really wasn't decking the person out, because neither one of my cards goes up to the amount that, you know, like up to an amount. They all have to do the exact amount. And so that's why I switched Golden Droplet for Runick Smiting Storm, so that now I can have a card that goes up to a certain amount. So if they have, you know, 4 cards left in deck, I can use this. If I have 3, 2, 1, whatever, I can use this card. It goes up to the amount. It makes it a lot easier to deck your opponent out. Now, believe it or not, you can probably consistently deck your opponent out depending on how good your opening hand is, anywhere between your 3rd or 4th turn, depending on how many times you summon out Tier Limits Kashtira and how many times you're activating Runick Slumber and Smiting Storm, and, you know, so on. extra deck, 2 Hugins. I was playing 3, but I decided to go down to 2. I'm playing the dog. I'm playing this one too, Munin, for time purposes. This one, definitely playing it. It's really good in this kind of deck because, again, well, it's good in any Runick deck, but it's really good in this one just because if you summon this out, this one can remove itself from the field without having to like be a trigger effect or anything like that. You can just remove it in your main phase to just clear your field, so then you can special summon out a a Kashtira monster from your hand. You had your 3 Shingaras. Now you could probably cut one of these out for the 3rd Hugin if you want to, or you maybe cut out this the 3rd one for something else that you might want to play instead. But you know, 3 of them is nice. 2 big eyes. I do believe that playing 2 of these is correct. You can play 1, but I like 2. And then you have your Draco Sag, and then basically you have your heavy hitters, the ones that these are the ones that basically you are more than likely going to be going into if you're going second, or if it was your second turn, you know, after your past turn and they played whatever and then back to you. You're more than likely be going into your big eyes, your Draco Sack, or your Annihilation. So these are your heavy hitters. These are just good at clearing boards. This is good at clearing boards. This is good also at just taking away a good monster that your opponent has. So nothing to say there. You do have this guy. This is pretty good because this is good for the Unchained and the Tier Limits. Tier Limits are making their way back. This is a good card to have against them. And Unchained, obviously, this is a good card to have against them. You know, because they bring back stuff from the graveyard. The one Donner, now you're probably wondering why the Donner is because you are going to be in some weird situations where you basically are going to have to summon out a Hugin first, and you know, you get your fountain, you activate your fountain, and you do all those nice plays. But the problem is that say if you put 3 cards back and you draw 3. Now, what if you didn't draw into a birth? What if you didn't have a birth, but you drew into a Rise Heart and you drew into a Unicorn? Well, you have a monster on your side of the field, so you can't really special summon anything out. Well, what you have to do is you pretty much have to normal summon your Rise Heart, and you basically have to link summon into a Donner. Obviously, you have to destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field. So obviously this is like a go second kind of thing. So your opponent has a card on the field. This does open up the line for you to clear your field with Donner, and yeah, so it's basically just one of the only plays you can do in situations. Now, I wasn't playing this at first, but then I realized that I needed to because there was a good amount of times during my play testings where that situation would actually come up where my opponent would go first, do whatever, I draw, I can summon out Hugin, search for Fountain. They didn't have any interruptions with that, but the problem was that when I drew 3 cards, I drew into names that I couldn't summon because I didn't have a birth. So I had to figure out how to play, and this was the one of the only things I can figure out to allow to play if those happen. The one card I didn't talk about was Flare Metal, and I think I mentioned this in my last video. This is a good card because basically on your turn 1, your inboard will look something like this guy. So Flare Metal, and Fenrir and a Unicorn. That's typically what your and then obviously you're gonna have your Fountain, and you know, maybe some Runick cards in your hand. Hopefully some Runick cards in your hand. You should have drawn 3 by now, and possibly a birth. But yeah, you should have a birth as well for this whole combo to go off. So you should have a Flare Metal, a Fenrir, a Unicorn, birth, and a Fountain on the field at the end of your turn 1. Now, the reason why this guy is good, yeah, I get it, you can't attack, but it becomes an aggro card. And an aggro card, basically, you know, it's a card that your opponent has to deal with unless they're going to get to a point of the game where they just can't play anymore. So not only are they dealing with the Fountain on the field, you possibly interrupting them with the Runick cards, drawing cards as well, but they're also dealing with you burning them for 500, and they're also dealing with a Unicorn and a Fenrir, and last but not least, a birth as well. So they got all these cards, so they pretty much have like at least 3 aggro cards on your side of the field that they have to get rid of on that turn. Now, the kicker of this deck is that basically they have to kill you almost in just that one turn in order for them to win. Because if they don't, they pretty much lose at that point, because a lot of people don't realize that on their first turn playing against this deck is that they lose, again, about 9 to 15 cards off the top of their deck on the first turn, if all goes well, right? They started with 5 cards already, and they're going to draw a 6th one, so they're down a lot of cards out of their deck. They don't know it yet, but they're already halfway done with their deck. So as they're playing their turn and you doing more Runick interruptions, you're taking more cards off the top of their deck. So when they pass turn back to you, they probably think they're in a good spot, but then once they look at their deck size and they realize that, oh, this guy is just basically trying to mill me out, they get the point and they pretty much just say, all right, let's go to the next game. And yeah, so that's basically how this deck works. It just essentially takes away a huge chunk of their deck in the first turn, and then it does it a little bit in their turn, and then on the third turn it does the huge chunk again, and then the fourth turn you should be very close to just completely decking them out. Now for the side deck, you don't have to really pay attention to this. I just kind of threw this together. Have not tested the side deck whatsoever. I just put these in here because these are some pretty decent options. Obviously you can change these out, you can put in whatever you want. I just threw these in here because these are pretty generic for right now. Drolls are kind of good again because of the whole Floowandereeze coming back to the scene. Lava Golems pretty good because again, you're normal summoning to their side of the field, leaves your field still clear for you to switch someone out of your Runick monster. I mean your Kashtira monsters. And then you got your 3 thrust, just in case you go on second. You can search for your board breakers if they do activate a monster effect. So then there you go. Yeah, so that's just the whole gimmick of the deck, and it works really, really well. And I just think that it gets a bad rep because a lot of people say that they don't understand how the Runick cards work with the Kashtira cards. If you summon out a Runick monster, how do you get your Kashtira monsters out? If you summon your Kashtira monsters and you activate a Runick card, how do you get into your battle phase? A lot of people just forget that you don't really need to do that if you're playing Runicks, right? The whole gimmick is to just take away your opponent's resources, and Kashtira does a pretty damn good job at doing the same thing, taking away your opponent's resources by banishing them face down. So to me it meshes well and it works very good, going hand in hand. So I think that people just look at it and they don't understand it, and they're just getting too, they're getting the things kind of mixed up and they just don't understand it. And yeah, I mean the deck works, it's really well meshed together. And then you have the Kashtira Birth. If you open up with Birth in this deck, you should be just winning from there on out. I mean, you're drawing 3 cards. If you draw into a Unicorn or Fenrir, I mean, with Birth, you're good. Like I don't think there's a way that you're losing that unless your opponent has. Obviously, you're gonna have to play through the Nibiru. I don't think there's a way you can play around the Nibiru in this deck. I mean, maybe if you go Shangri-La. Yeah, this is just a really weak play, but it doesn't really get you anywhere. But yeah, you're gonna have to fight through their hand traps with this deck, and that's fine. It's a huge risk, but a huge reward if all goes well and they can't really stop you as much. But I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys this to let you know that Kashtira is still a living, breathing deck. You just have to find little niches with it. I have seen some put it with the punk cards, but the one thing I don't like about the punk cards with the Kashtira is just that at that point, why not just go punk Gold Pride? It does better, and just slap in like 3 Fenrirs and there you go. Like it's just a better deck. I have seen like the Kashtira stun decks. I just think that this does better at stunning your opponent, because stun decks kind of like, if you do like a skill drain and stuff like that, yeah, I get it. You take away your opponent's monsters effects and stuff like that, but they can still just book their monster, and then they get the they can activate their effect, book their monster, and then the effect would still go through whatever monster that could possibly be. Or it's just like you have continuous spells. They did a Harpious Feather Duster. Now what do you do? Like, you just lost everything. So at least with this deck, you're stunning them, you're taking away their card advantage, you're gaining card advantage. And again, like I said, by turn 3 or 4, the game is pretty much already decided on who's going to win. I'm just saying this right now. If you pretty much last to turn 3, you're more than likely winning. I mean, you should be winning if you last to turn 3. That means that they couldn't break your board and you're able to reestablish it all over again on your turn. A single Birth can bring you completely back to the game. I'm telling you, I've been there so many times. A single Birth can just bring you completely back to the game again. And yeah, and it's just pretty much at that point it's a done deal. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, please like, video. All right, let's get that algo. Let's get the engagement going. You know, more people need to see this. I know the Kashtira people out there are hating the fact that they lost their boss monster, but I'm letting you know that it's still good to go. And if you enjoyed the video as well, go ahead and hit that sub button for your boy, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.